everyone. Thanks for joining me as I start a new series called Exploring Your Personal Life Path for 2023. For anyone who is interested in achieving a greater sense of self-knowledge on a spiritual or psychological level, then you may be interested in what I plan on covering. Now, this all began as I was looking through the different aspects of this year, 2023, with the tarot in mind, numerology in mind, the Kabbalah in mind, and absolutely astrology and what is happening this year, astrological, that I'll get into a little bit later on or in future videos. But it soon became obvious to me that this is a year that can be life-changing if we understand each of these sciences and how they affect us, what they offer us, and what they can teach us, and how to utilize that energy. So today, I'm just going to outline a little bit about the symbology of the Chariot card, how it plays into this. I'll also cover a little bit of the Kabbalah and where the Chariot card is on the Tree of Life and why it's so instrumental in understanding other of the major arcana cards this go around, its relationship to the other cards. And also in future videos, I will be tying all of this information of each individual life path, numbers 1 through 9, as well as the 3 master numbers. So knowing your life path number is really crucial going forward, or the life path number of other people that you may be interested in helping or sharing this information with. Okay, so let's get started. And what you are seeing, not very well displayed because I couldn't get it all on camera, is called Pathwork, and I'll get into that a little bit later on. Right now, I want you to look at the Chariot because I'm going to talk about some very important, crucial symbolism of the Chariot that some people may not know, but I feel are very instrumental in understanding the lesson the Chariot card is trying to teach us this year, 2023. Making note of the canopy, the blue star-studded canopy, okay? And believe it or not, it is a representation of the sky goddess Nut. So I did find a large, beautiful picture of sky goddess Nut. It was in this astronomy book that I have. And Nut, well, this is in the Metropolitan Museum. It was found in Egypt in the 5th century. And this is Nut, and this is the myth behind Nut. Okay, and she comes in different forms. She also is in a form of a cow. So let me try to very quickly give you an understanding of why this is the canopy for the Chariot. We go back understanding that the during the time of the gods and goddesses, before the earth existed, Nut, there's no delicate way of saying this, but had intercourse with her brother. And that brother, or the small brother that we're seeing here, represented the earth. So the high god Ra said, I disapprove of this, it's incest, yada yada. So he asked Shu, S-H-U, to separate them, take them apart, because it was a perpetual union, okay? There was a lot of creativity going on. And also told Shu to take the body of Nut. And you can, and in some pictures, she's on her tippy toes. She's not here, but you may have seen some where she's on her tippy toes, and then you see her fingers arching over, I think it's Jeb, not sure, don't put me on that, but arching over Jeb, brother who represents the earth. And in that arch, we have the moons. And of course, the chariot has many moons. He's got the 2 on his shoulders, for sure. He is Cancer sign as far as the correspondence, and Cancer, of course, is ruled by the moon. Okay, so what is this all going to end up doing, the shape of the ark? So as Nut was in this way, Thoth said, I'm not going to have any part of this. This isn't right. So he made a pact with the moon. There's our moon. And they formed a pact to override Ra. And the pact was that out of this connection, there was going to be 5 extra days in the year, and it wasn't allotted to any particular month. So we went from 360 to 365. What those 5 days represented was the children from the seed of the earth, and we have the next set, or the next generation of the gods. And of course, many of you know who those 5 children are. They are Isis, Osiris, Set, Horus, and another sister, Memphis. So those are the 5 children. The other thing that I just want to talk about that's going to also further help you understand the canopy is that it was said that her belly was star-spangled. There is stars there. The canopy is star-spangled, so you can see the stars. Another correlation. And that Nut sometimes would take the shape of a cow when Ra visited. Ra went in and out of both worlds, but when he visited, he would climb on she would kneel down, he would climb on the back of her, Ra would climb on her back, and it was said that when she tried to get back up because of the weight of the stomach and the cow, one time she became very, very dizzy. At that instant, there was 4 gods who instantly came to help Nut come back up with the weight of Ra on her back. And because of the importance of Nut being in this position, the gods became permanent, and the 4 gods became what is called the world's 4 pillars. Now there are the 4 pillars of the chariot. What are the world's 4 pillars? Well, they are the 4 elements, of course. So that's a quick rendition of the Egyptian god Ra and why we have that canopy and the 4 pillars. It also has to do with the 4 elements in astrology, which is another reason why understanding our chart is very important and balancing those elements in our chart. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on and talk about the chariot. And we're going to leave this here for a while, but I'm going to put the chariot card right in the center, and I do have this in written form. That way you don't have to remember what I've said, but you may want to do a little bit of a shot and have this for your records. All right. The chariot is all about the higher self, and it is ready to expand when we are in this 7 cycle universal, or even in your own personal cycle. Now, the card symbolizes the process, the work. What is the work? Well, each different sciences talk about doing the work. In the tarot, it is the work called the path work. I'll explain that a little more, by which man comes to know that, and this is the important part, that his personality is the vehicle for his true essence. When such a synthesis takes place, he or she becomes better able to direct their lives with greater clarity, which in turn fulfills one's creative and spiritual purpose. Well, what is our purpose? Our purpose is shown through our life path number, the lessons we're here to learn, each incarnation shown from our date of birth. So it's important during the Chariot year to understand our life path and the lessons that the Chariot wants us to do on our spiritual path work. Now, this is the 3 levels that I'm referring to here when I talk about the 7th level. And of course, the Fool is the spirit. He is the journeyman who travels. There's 7, 14, 21. He is the 27th card. And what are these different levels? Well, they are stages of experience and consciousness, and these principles which are depicted in the first row of the tarot pathwork is what we have to learn, what we have to experience, what we have to integrate, and what we have to know. And here we are at the end of the first level on our pathwork, and we are ready to come to the second level, which has a great deal amount to do, a lot of soul work, inner work. A lot of it is work that we do behind the scenes. Okay, let's continue. The Chariot shows us that our inner state of mind determines our outer life, not the other way around. The reason I want to bring that to everyone's consciousness again goes back with the color symbology. Yellow is always the mind, the intellect. Blue is usually, most often, is the unconscious. It's the emotions. It's the feeling. So his outer world, how we think, where we live, how we process, is all framing the Chariot card. And then we have the blue and the white stars, the canopy that goes over his head, the area of thought, consciousness, where the mind and the thinking resides, protecting him. Now, our step-by-step journey, which began with card number 1, the Magician, is now on the precipice of understanding the crucial difference between personality and soul. The Chariot card represents the personality. The personality is often thought of in spiritual work as the ego. We want the ego to be strong, but we want the ego to be healthy. And we want the ego to be tempered enough so that the promptings of the soul can have a say, because it is of higher wisdom in how to go about managing, living, and conducting your life. Going on, which in time will lead him to the realization of his true nature, known as his higher self, and that is the way of the pathwork, where on the 3rd and last level, we come to know, we have the World card, we come to know who we are, our soul essence, our purpose, and work from, as much as we can, from that level of consciousness. Okay, let's put these and just concentrate then on what I have next as far as the symbology on the Chariot card, and then we will get into a little bit of the Kabbalah. All right. The Hindu lignum, All right, and I bet you some people already know what that is. The winged solar disk. There's the solar disk, there's the wings. This is Egyptian, and it is above the Hindu lingam. This sign has to do with union of God and goddess, male and female, heaven and earth, or positive and negative forces, all having to do with duality, balance, equilibrium, the tree of life, and the tarot, of course. On the Kabbalistic level, it is the 8th Hebrew letter, CH. It's pronounced Chet, and it's called a field or a fence or fenced field. And that again is depicted by his breastplate. It's protecting his breast, it's protecting his heart, it's protecting a woman's breast. So there is that fenced in of the heart, the feeling, the chest. It is also ideals. Our ideas are carried into the field of the conscious, into the field of the mind. That is where we go forward, whatever we have in our mind, whatever thoughts come in. That's the consciousness there. Second definition, which were all found in the Sefer Yetzirah, also known as the Book of Creation. This is where I found this. It's called the House of Influence. What did I just say? That our higher self and our ego are housed by our physical body. That is our vehicle. And it is the intelligence emanating from the higher self. And then lastly, there's also the flower of Chet, of number 8, path in the Hebrew, and it is the lotus. The lotus has a lot of symbology having to do with 7 petals, the number 7, as well as the 7 chakras, which are definitely the energy vortexes within the body that we house, that we protect, that is consciousness being expressed. And also, when we connect it to the 4 pillars, the lotus is the only flower that utilizes air, earth, water, and fire. And the 4 pillars of the also represent that of the zodiac and the signs that have the prominent air elements, or 4 elements, I should say. So let's go on now to a little bit of the Kabbalah and path number 18 and show you where that is. And I think this is probably going to be the easiest depiction of where we are right now. The Chariot card is here, and it's path 18. So it is on the water pillar. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'll explain it. So let's go ahead and look at our worksheet here. Path 18 connects Binah with Jabberah on the pillar of severity. This is the pillar of mercy. Severity is here, the water pillar. Well, we know that the Chariot is ruled and corresponds to Cancer. Cancer is definitely a water sign. And Binah is the mother. It is the womb. It is from which everything emerges from. So Binah is the mother principle. Chokmah is the father principle. Both are needed for creation. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit down the road. So Binah is the realm of the spirit, and it is spiritual love, something that is important for us, again, to consider for 2023. And Jabberah, the one that Path 18 connects, is the realm of the soul, what we just been talking about, and it is the archetype of will and power. Well, those are keywords certainly for the Chariot in interpreting the power of the Chariot. Now, in between where we have the two pillars, let's call this the male and let's call this the female, and we see that it is white and black. We know that the middle pillar, which basically where you and I are when we look at the Chariot card, in the center, and here he has the dark Sphinx and we have the white Sphinx, and as you can see, they also have basically all four aspects. They are male and female, and they are animalistic, and they are divine in their meanings and interpretations. Focus here on Daath. Daath is the hidden sephira that is usually not talked about very much on the regular tree of life. But Daath is knowledge. It is the gateway to the hidden, and it is discovering the fruits of the shadow by seeking the darkness within the depths of the unknown. This is where we get knowledge. Along the abyss, remember we just said that the Chariot was ready to go into the next level. So he is right here in the abyss between Kether up here and Tiferet down here, revealing that which embodies it. And what I mean by that is we have will, which is Kether. We have the intellect with this Hakmah on the tree of mercy. And then we have the emotions, which is the tree of severity, the water pillar, and it is Binah. So here you have the first triangle, and this is where the Chariot is traveling. Now, what is also fascinating is when we get to know ourselves, we know about shadow work. This is where everything lies unconsciously. Some people call it the Akashic. So again, there's a lot of information in 2023 in meditating with the Chariot card. But what is fascinating is we know that card number 2, the High Priestess, sits right under Kether. So let's go ahead now and put here the Chariot card. And we know that above we have the High Priestess. And then over here, we also have the Hierophant. Now, it's not going to take you long to see that we really have 3 cards indicating individuals who are sitting in between pillars, and they are in the center. And if you look at their expression, the middle pillar, of course, is air. There is, and it's called harmony. And the High Priestess seems to have attained that. And another way, the symbology that a lot of people sometimes don't notice is the pomegranates and the palm are also additional pillars that she veils, and you can see the center one up there, and certainly you see a lot of the moon, which we made reference to with the Chariot, which we made reference to with Newt, and the pact that Fa made with the moon. We see that here in the Chariot. So here, the middle pillar represents harmony, and it is the principle of balance, and in both or I should say in all 3, the Chariot, the High Priestess, and the Hierophant, they look calm and they look confident. So what is the secret that we need, again, we're talking about that. We're talking about hidden knowledge, correct? So we ask ourselves, what is the secret that we need to discover so that we too can have this inner and outer sense of balance and contentment and confidence? Well, number one, as I said before, we embark on the path of the Fool's Journey. We can also switch our focus from the outer life of sensations, accumulation, stimulation, action, and reaction. This year especially, because the Chariot talks about that, stepping back, doing more meditation, slowing down. Remember, the body rebuilds itself every 7 years. And in numerology, the number 7, when we are in a 7 cycle, your body needs additional rest and sleep and recovery. So that is a big part of the 7 journey in a 7 universal year, especially of what we need to do to switch our focus from the outer world into the inner world and not allow the outer world to drive us and to make us do things that we really know sometimes are self-defeating behaviors, to having the awareness of how much we are driven from the outer stimulus and distractions of the outer world. Now, the other thing is that when we look at the inner world of wisdom, which is the transformation process, because the High Priestess is telling you to look within, certainly, and she has the Book of Knowledge on her lap, that we get to understand the wisdom that is within us when we quiet down the mind in order to listen to the soul's prompt and to the higher self, and to go about and maybe perform or initiate that inner voice that we heard. Balance and harmony also comes when we understand ourselves and the life that we've lived. We're at the 7 level, so we can go back and look where we've been up to 6 years ago and decide what it is that's going on and where and how have I been living, and are there changes that I would like to make now? That would all be very helpful. And then the third thing is using intuitive knowledge. Why? Because it is the combination of both the logical and the inner knowings based, again, by our experience that I've just alluded to. And through that experience, it is the synthesizing of the left and the right brain. Now, how can we look at that with the pillars, the tree of life, and the symbology that we're looking at? Well, the right brain is the dark, and the left brain is male, and it is the white. And when we need both. And when we integrate them both, we become wise, and they work together. And when we take that experience and we allow the intuition of the right brain to flow and harmonize, then we will operate a little bit differently in the world. The inner creative mind, which is the spirit, then takes form. There is also a third important aspect to why both are necessary and why we have to integrate them. Because basically, if we do not, intuition, inspiration, fantasies, creativity is wonderful, but it's formless until it is created into a form. There's no better way of saying it. So we have an idea, and until it is expressed and experienced and it's become into a form that we are able to see or explain or create, then that inspiration, that intuition has no legs to walk on. So we need the lower self as much as we need the higher self. It is a positive charge and a negative charge. It is male and female. It is dark and light. It is God and goddess. It is both, but they have to unite and work together. So let's reflect back to see when we were in a high priestess year. So that may also help you to reflect, because this work is all about reflecting. In the universe, of course, we were in a high priestess year when 2000 came around, which was 23, almost 23 years ago. It's so hard to fathom. Also, during 2009, we were not only in a high priestess year, but it was a master number, and 9 and 2 is 11. So we were in a high priestess and also a justice. Now, justices, again, look about that. It's about the pillars. And they are united here because they're gray. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But 2009 and then again in 2018, we were on a high priestess with a justice year. So this hidden knowledge, that which is right here, remember this is our chariot year. This is that, and we are going across the abyss, and we have, and to do that, we are connecting the chariot, the knowledge, the influence, with the high priestess, the teacher, the unknown, the shadow, the unconscious within us, and then we are integrating that, and it becomes our inner teacher. The Hierophant is the blending of the two poles of opposite, the black and the white, and that is why the pillars now become gray. And we are then basically in the realm of incorporating and have the power to create, to use our intuition, to use our logical mind for the betterment not only of ourselves and our evolution, but for everyone concerned. So this hidden knowledge, going back to that Daath with these three cards on the horizon line are also the three minds, and I want to make sure everybody understands that. So here we have the conscious will and the ego. Here we have the unconscious, and here we have what is called the superconsciousness, or the divine will and the divine mind, who is able to tap into it. And the last secret symbol is what's behind. A lot of people say, what is behind the high priestess? What is she guarding? Well, she's guarding the entrance to the Temple of Solomon, and she doesn't let everybody in. But there is also a key with both of these cards, which again is empowering for us for 2023. So let me reiterate that what's behind the veil of the high priestess is also behind the chariot, and it is a stream of water. Again, we talked about Binah. We talked about creation. It is the womb, and the stream of water, if you really look on the side, there's the water behind her, between the two pillars, and the same is true. The chariot is half in the water. It looks like the back legs of the chariot are still in the water as he comes to earth. Does that not remind us of Newt? It also reminds us of the Seal of Solomon, as well as the Pythagorean triangle, as well as the Star of David, where you have the two intertwining triangles. The one facing up is fire. The one facing down is water. Together, they're putting in the positive and the negative, and we have matter. We have spirit and matter creating. Okay, so the form of water. Now, water, of course, that is another thing that a lot of people get confused about. But as you heard me say, it is life itself. And through water, we are created. We are birthed from water. And it represents just about multiple aspects of the emotions, especially the emotions. And the emotions are in the solar plexus, and they're in the unconscious. That is where we do our shadow work. Now, water also takes the form that is revealed in the container that it's in. Other than that, when water is not, let's say, controlled, when our emotions are not controlled, they can take on many forms. And some of them that we hear is cold as ice, or steamy hot and sensual. Also, the water, for me, very beautifully, is what happens when the emotions are touched so deeply that we have tears pouring forth from our eyes. And those tears can be expressing great pain or expressing great joy, which again depicts both of the pillars of life and what teaches us, what molds us, what makes life an adventure. So water, again, is to me very important in understanding this time around. It's in all of us, and key is allowing the essence, allowing the emotions to flow freely. And in doing so, you will be able to feel, touch, enjoy, and manifest. Okay, that is that. And then lastly, which I forgot to say, I think in the beginning, is before I go into my next video, I thought maybe a lot of you would like to reflect on the Chariot and maybe do some journaling, some meditation, some contemplation. And here are some questions that you may like to ask yourself. What drives me to, and just fill in the blank. How do I use my will? Where do I need greater use of my power? What have I lost the will to do? Who or what controls my mind? Where do I feel out of control or have no control of? How do I fence myself in? Where do I feel vulnerable? What emotion is driving me? What part or parts of me is out of alignment, which limits me from moving forward with confidence? My greatest achievements come when and you fill in the blank. Now, of the 7 cards, and you might want to lay them down from the Magician, card number 1, to the Chariot, which one incites resistance? And look through all the cards and maybe just take them out and look at them one by one, or maybe you already know because they're coming out in your readings, or this archetype is something you've been dealing with for a long time and could also be in your dreams or be presented to you by a person in your life. Of the 7 cards, which one incites resistance? Of the 7 cards, which one reflects where I am presently? And how does that feel? Is it time for me to release the rein in some part of my life? Remember, the Chariot doesn't have the reins. Wherever he went, here he is, or she. He's not holding on to any reins because he's been able to control his mind and his emotions. Now, going back to that question, is it time for me to release the reins in some part of my life or take charge and be a leader for? Take the reins up. Can I allow myself to pause, be nurtured, detach from, and allow the divine to reach me and guide me during this year? Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know how you feel about this. And I will start with life path number 1 in the next video and correlate some of the teachings that will help that life path succeed for 2023. Thank you everyone for joining. Blessings. Bye for now.